Welcome to Talking Giants, presented by SeatGeek. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, Justin Pennick. And we've got a lot to get to. We have Arch Stapleton in the van, interview at the end of this. Training camp started. Andrew Thomas got his contract, and we got a live event coming up. Justin, how are you doing?
Woo-wee! It's the best time of year. Bobby Skinner, we're together. We've had a great week. We've had an awesome week. Thanks to everybody that's come up and said hi to us. Thanks for everybody that's been hanging out in the post-practice live streams. It's been pretty hype. It's been 700, 800 people on a Thursday, and it was about 1,000 people the first day, which was a ton of fun. So we got a lot to talk to, Bobby Skinner. We have some announcements, so let's get to it.
Yeah, want to start with the Andrew Thomas stuff because there's really not much to talk about it. Yeah. But first, this episode is brought to you by some Patreon members. We got Matt Weber. I know of Matt Weber. Dylan Gigliotti, James Gagliano, some names.
So many Italians.
Chris Gross.
Oh, gross.
When Chris is gross, James Gagliano.
Oh, let's calm down.
And then just the real Sam. The real son of Sam. Justin,
the real son of Sam. They went to patreon.com/talkinggiants. $2 a month plus some other tiers. You get to hang out with us live while recording the shows like a bunch of people are doing right now. We're talking about training camp. We're hype about Darren Waller. We're going to talk about him. A lot of talk about Darren Waller this week. Patreon.com/talkinggiants. Bobby Skinner will send you some stickers in the mail, plus there's some shirt raffles. Thanks to our patrons.
And new Patreons over the next 3 weeks.
Yeah,
easy. Wait till I get back in Florida, and then I will reach out to you guys about your addresses to get you guys stickers. So.
Ding!
All right, Justin, I really want to talk about Darren Waller, but we have to talk Andrew Thomas at the top. Andrew Thomas extended 5-year, $117.5 million deal, $67 million guaranteed, the most guaranteed money an offensive lineman has ever gotten.
Take that, Nate Solder.
The $23.5 million average annual value is $1.5 million less than Laremy Tunsil, which is a win for the Giants, and I think that's the win of getting it done a year earlier. There's really not much to talk about this because this is a no-brainer.
He's also here through 2029.
Yeah, did Joe Shane get a W for making this a less average annual value than Laremy Tunsil? Sure. But this is the biggest no-brainer contract of all time. And if they made it $25 million a year, there's really no number that would have been this contract was always going to get done. It deserved to get done. He's an all-pro left tackle. He's actually taken steps every single year. He hasn't plateaued at his year 1 or his year 2 level. He's taken steps every year. And something I love about him is that he is great at self-scouting. So we talked a lot about on the offensive line reports and just him last year of how, hey, I don't really punch. I kind of let the guys come to him. I invite the bull rush because pass rushers don't want a bull rush. They just don't, but unless you're Nick Bosa. Well, he's self-scouted, and some people did start the bull rush and would get the better of him here and there. And he's like, hey, I got to work on my upper body strength this offseason, and got that better. So we'll see how it shows up when they start playing games. But this is the biggest no-brainer contract of all time. He's your left tackle. He's one of the best in the league. He's top 3 left tackle in the league. And he's one of the most humble and hardest workers and smartest dudes in the building. Obviously, you can tell I like the guy a lot. Congratulations to Andrew Thomas.
Yeah, he's a friend of ours. We've talked with him in the van before, in the famous van. So congratulations to Andrew Thomas. And we typically we like guys and form relationships with guys that we like too. That's part of our little philosophy. And we're really glad that Andrew Thomas got what he got. Awards earned and given.
Well, he got a Pro Bowl snub last year, so we're working for the Pro Bowl this year.
Money earned and given. Dan Duggan, contract details, $16 million signing bonus. That's a lot of money coming up front. Thomas's cap hit will be around $5 million this year, so I believe that is $5 million less than what it was going to be. He has guaranteed salaries in 2023, 24, 25, and 26, plus roster bonuses ranging from $2.5 million to $5 million throughout the deal early in each offseason. So Andrew Thomas could have played this year, and he could have played extremely well like he did last year, and then he could have gotten more money. Instead, he wanted the security, and I think it's a win for both Thomas to get that security with guaranteed money. Plus, it's a win for the Giants because if he does play extremely well again this year, he asks for more money.
Yeah, this was a contract. When the season ended, and it's how's the offseason go? I know we talked Daniel Jones free agent, Saquon, Love, Barkley, Slayton. In my head, I was like, okay, but get this Andrew Thomas extension.
Yeah.
It's after year 3, it's eligible, get it done. So they got it done the morning of camp. So very excited, very happy to have him on the team. All right, let's talk Darren Waller. he's just better than everyone else. These first 2 days of camp have been so much fun watching Darren Waller out there. Because, like, Saquon Barkley is obviously a great player at the top of his craft. Running backs aren't really able to show off a ton in training camp. They don't tackle. They're doing more passing stuff. Like, it shows up, but it's not as apparent. Watching Darren Waller is just so much freaking fun, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it's down in, down out with this guy. You know, and I know people think of the explosive plays, and he one of the best in the league, but it's just
It's been the opposite of that so far.
The quick game stuff, you know, and he could turn the quick game into explosives. That's the type of player he is. You know, we saw day one was red zone work, Justin. Like, he was dominating it. It was just like he consistently gets open. There was a time where DJ fired in a tight pass between both McKinney and Okereke tight. They both hit him too. He bobbles it, brings it in. And then today, on day two, we saw Wink Martindale. Like, this is what was really exciting me more than just red zone work, was Wink Martindale was throwing his exotic blitzes at him at the offense like he did in camp last year. And last year it made the Giants' offense look pathetic.
Really bad.
Like, it could be the 32nd. Like, if it played like that in games, it would have been the 32nd ranked offense in the NFL. I mean, it looked really, really bad. They started throwing this stuff at them today. No. And I think DJ's playing with more confidence too, and he has confidence in a guy like Darren Waller to get the ball to. It's just like, okay, you're going to blitz, you're going to throw this exotic shit at me. I'm going to look at Darren Waller because I'm going to trust him to get open. And unless you're bracketing him, he's not going to be covered. And he consistent. I mean, it started out with 3 straight blitzes of 11 on 11 period today. Darren Waller. And then it allowed for other stuff. It created bigger plays for like Slayton on an over route, Daniel Bellinger on like a 15-yard in route. You know, so it allowed for those type of plays, and it's really impressive to watch Darren Waller, and Daniel Jones already has a really good connection with him.
Yeah. So day one of camp was exclusively red zone stuff. Day 2 of camp was second and medium, third and medium, but it was. You know, they were able to kind of stretch field a little bit where they were running from like midfield, let's just say, where they had more space to operate with. So day 1, they were running with a lot of 12 personnel, like you mentioned, Daniel Bellinger. They're running a lot of 12 personnel and some of the heavier stuff. You know, this has been a passing camp too. I want to note that too about Brian Dable.
So
Brian Dable ramping up.
Yeah. So, like, the next podcast, we want to talk a lot about Evan Neal. I know there's a lot of Evan Neal questions, and I have them myself.
Yeah. This is going to be a heavy wide receiver DB pod because it's been like a passing camp.
Yeah.
A lot of 7-on-7. You know, day 1 more 7-on-7 versus 11-on-11. No shoulder pads,
So
just helmets.
We'll get into the trenches a lot more in the next pod.
Day 1 red zone. They're running a lot of 12 personnel. Okay, you want the big guy. You want the bigger packages out on the field, right? Even in a passing camp. Day 2, still a decent amount of 12 personnel, even in second and medium, third and medium situations. And it was both Daniel Bellinger and Darren Waller eating and like getting space. And, you know, there was even one play of day 2 camp where Daniel Bellinger had yards after the catch, and it would have been like a legit 20-plus yard game, not just a practice 20-plus yard gain. So I can't emphasize again, and I know you just said it, I can't emphasize again how special it's been to see, and we're Giants fans, okay? This Giants podcast. How special it's been to see through 2 days Darren Waller's short, quickness ability to go from totally stopping and to get up to full speed and to make cuts and to run routes. Like, that's not something that we have seen a tight end be able to do. We've seen smart little nuance, route runners, like a Caden Smith knew how to like get open and find space. You know, this is the combo of like what we wanted out of Evan Ingram and like what, even like the Cowboys were getting out of like Jason Witten and being able to run routes like that.
He's not even just like a big guy who's fast. If you didn't know he was fast, you're just like, damn, that dude's big. Like, he's bigger than everybody else. Like, he really is just...
He's not small.
He's just a different player than what we've seen.
And we haven't even seen the vertical stuff yet, where I think, a lot in the spring, that's what a lot of the people on the beat were saying from their observations of spring, is seeing Darren Waller run down the field to get targeted. We haven't even seen that yet. So I'm really excited for the day whenever Dable implements, this is going to be a second and long and third and long day where they're looking to stretch the field a little bit more and get closer to the sticks. Then we'll see, is Waller targeted down the field, and we'll be able to see the vertical speed on display.
Yeah, we haven't even seen
it.
Like a 20, 25-yard the target, and we're this thrilled. Imagine when that stuff starts.
The short area quickness, that's the phrase I'm looking for, is just, that's been the main takeaway through the first 2 days of camp.
Do you anything else on Waller? Should we talk about the
No,
the
let's
live
keep
event?
moving. We got a lot of stuff to talk about.
So we have a live event coming up. Just do a quick ad on this. There's a link in the description. Where is it at?
I will pull it up. Tell me.
We have a live event for the Lions preseason game. It's like the playoffs. It's obviously going to be a little less intense, but I actually think that'll make it more enjoyable because we'll be able to interact and talk with you guys more and have a good time. So because Fan Fest was canceled, I really felt like a hole missing from training camp. So for the Detroit Lions preseason game, we'll be in the city doing a watch party at the bar that Justin's going to bring up.
Eventually.
Good time. I saw the pictures and videos of it. It looks really nice.
Yeah, it's very good.
Tickets will be $25. I do believe it's 21 plus. And I listen, I hate that we can't do Fan Fest, but I think this will be a good way to really interact with you guys.
So the
I'm very
Midnight
excited
Theater
for it.
in New York City. Doors are going to open at 5:30 p.m. The game starts at 7 p.m. 75 Manhattan West Plaza in New York. Like Bobby said, hey, it won't be the same vibes as Mr. Purple, but we're certainly run that back.
It might be the vibes at Mr. Purple were like intense. Let's kill somebody. These will be like, let's watch some freaking Giants football. Let's be happy. So it will be different vibes.
It's always a lot of fun.
So make sure to come out. I don't know how tickets will go with this, but for the playoff parties,
It went quick.
They went very quick, and we're like having people asking us for tickets, and we just couldn't do anything.
Yeah,
So,
75 Manhattan West Plaza, New York, Midnight Theater, and the link is in the description. We hope to see you there. This space looks pretty awesome. Screens everywhere. I know it was the thing at Billy's. It was really tough to see the game. There's going to be screens everywhere. This is like the best of both worlds for us and what we're trying to do, and then I think also even better for if you're trying to come and enjoy a Giants game, this is going to be even better.
Yeah. All right. A couple things on position battles. Not going to talk too much about production except for nickel corner I want to talk about. With the interior, day one was Bredesen at center and Azudu at left guard, which I think day one has a lot to do with seniority. Like I always go back to Nick Gates versus Spencer Pulley in 2020, where day one Spencer Pulley starting at center, and I'm like, why?
Yeah.
Why did we make Nick Gates move to center if you're not going to play him there? Then day two, Nick Gates is at center, and Spencer Pulley never got a first team center rep the rest of camp. But day two, John Michael Smith's moved in the center. I expect him to stay there the rest of camp. And then Bredesen was moved to left guard, and Azudu rotated in, but Bredesen was the starter. But we thought they might do this. Bredesen truly is being trained to be the every position. Like he's got even a few reps at right guard. He worked at center again today and left guard. They're training him. And then Azudu, again, not going to talk much about production with offensive alignment, but I did see him using his hands, so that was interesting.
Yep.
Pinnock started day one at safety, Belton day two.
Before we go to other battles, I want to stick with the interior for a second. We didn't get a chance to talk about this on our camp live streams. We saw 6 players snapping the football before the first practice on, what is it, Tuesday or Wednesday? What day?
Wednesday.
We saw 6 players practicing snapping the ball. I have never, ever seen that. And I've been coming to camp since 2017, and that's across like 4 different coaching staffs. I've never seen that. And I kind of think Brian Dable...
Even Devery Hamilton was snapping the ball.
Yeah, well, he had to last year because I think Brian Dable learned last year. I think this is part of the self-evaluation and, what this coaching staff does and what we think that what we love that they do. Remember last year, and we were talking about this, how like Marcus McKeithen and Josh Azudu were like the second team tackles
Insane.
At some point last year because 1 week into camp, while fans were still coming to camp, all the offensive linemen got hurt. All of them. Feliciano was even out for like some sort of mystery reason for a hot sack. So that's your starting center. Max Garcia was like in and out of there. I think Ben Bredesen maybe got hurt. Like everybody got hurt. So, hey, if your name isn't Mark Lewinsky or
Matt Gano
Josh
retired.
Azudu, Matt Gano retired. So if your name isn't Mark Lewinsky or Josh Azudu, basically, if you're an interior offensive lineman, your ass is going to at least be able to snap the ball.
Yeah.
So that was kind of cool to see how they're not 6 different centers through 3 teams, but before practice, they were all practicing snapping the ball.
More you can do. Versatility. Pinnock started day one at safety, Belton day two. I don't really know which. They could start McCain day 3. We'll see.
Yeah.
And those were the only other starter battle was Darnay Holmes got day 1, Cordell Flock got day 2. And this is one I do want to talk about. Cordell Flock should be the starter.
He's got him.
Darnay struggled a lot on day 1. He played a lot better in day 2, but it was against second stringers. but he really struggled day one. He just, as people who, like, when Darnay's beginning of his career in Patrick Graham's scheme, was like, man, for a 4th-round pick, this guy has been good. Like, he's been solid enough. You can go out there and he'd be playable. In this Wink Martindale man coverage scheme, he just doesn't fit. Like, he can't press guys up. He's not able to hang with them. Where Flott was someone who I was keying in on today because I wanted to get a better look at the defense today than day one. And he is very comfortable pressing guys up. Like, there was an interception DJ had on 7-on-7s. That started with Cordell Flott pressing up Hodgins and moving DJ off of that read in his progression. He even like pressed up Darren Waller halfway decent and was in his hip on the sideline and a couple other times. Like, he's impressive. Now, again, it's 2 days of camp, so I'm not sitting here declaring Cordell Flott is your next great starting corner. But what I will say is that he should be the starter, and I don't think it should really be a battle going forward. I think he should be the guy in the slot going forward.
Yeah, you feel like he's more of an advantage in the slot than Darnay Holmes. Almost just simply based off of traits and his physical traits.
You drafted the guy in the 3rd round. You need to play him.
Yeah. Yeah, and Darnay Holmes, obviously not a Joe Shane guy, and was drafted to be in literally the exact opposite system. Patrick Graham's 2020 scheme was, everything is in front of you, go up and make a play, where Wink Martindale is not, okay, we're going to come up and make a play, we're going to come at you, we're going to punch you in the face. Literally the 2 exact opposite defensive schemes. And I'm even excited about the potential of, like Art mentioned, Nick McLeod, and I know Nick McLeod could not even make the team, but I don't think that them pushing, number one, they brought him back, and he was like a mid-season post 53 man.
I think McLeod makes it.
Yeah, so I think I picked him to make my 53-man roster. So McLeod cross-training at safety day 1, and then kind of lining up at corner/slot corner day 2, where corner was outside corners where he played last year. And I think the lines between safety and slot corner can sometimes be blurred depending on what you're asked to do and what the game plan is. So I'm even excited about the potential of if Cordell Flott is pushed back to the outside and then Nick McLeod can come down in the slot. You can have McLeod go on the outside. So there's some more depth there with McLeod there. And it's some fun packages if you need to in a pinch.
Yeah. Yeah, Flott's going to play. And McLeod, like, if you ask me McLeod or Amani Aurore, and Aurore is really a feast or famine guy. We've seen that. I would probably go McLeod. Like, at least he's more versatile, and
100%.
Maybe if McLeod played more, he'd have the ugly film. But Amani, with all the good plays he makes, has some really ugly film too. And he made some good plays on day 2. I also saw David Sills get like 8 yards of separation on a dig route.
David Sills is also a training camp king.
Training camp superstar.
It's unbelievable.
Is there anything... we're going to get into a lot more.
Interior linebacker 2 is another battle.
Yeah, it's been hard to pay attention, but it seems like Beavers is that guy. Mm-hmm. McFadden has rotated in there, but Beavers is the starter. And it's kind of crazy how much confidence they have in a guy who they drafted in the 6th round.
Hasn't played a game.
They had 5 5th-round picks, or 5 5th and 4th-round picks. They drafted him in the 6th round. And with Torres ACL, he's going to be the starter if he can stay healthy. I'm pretty confident in that. And McFadden's look really a lot of the Darren Waller highlights in red zone yesterday were Micah McFadden lowlights.
Yeah. I'm gonna talk about something first because I feel like we're just at a natural break, and then we'll talk about DJ, and I want to talk about what we're expecting next, kind of practice-wise, and even we were having a conversation about Brian Dable and a ramp-up period and stuff like that. New field. Nobody's gotten hurt yet. Knock on wood. Now that we're in the thick of summer, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals to support sunny and active days. That's right. We're talking about Factor. Hey, giant factor of this training camp. Who has it been? Darren Waller? Who else? Give me another name. Cordell Flott. Boom.
But we just talked about Cordell Flott. So Tre Hawkins.
Whoa, Tre Hawkins. We haven't talked about him. We'll talk about him after this ad break. America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit can help you fuel up fast with flavorful, nutritious, ready-to-eat meals. Delivery straight to your door. I just ordered more Factor.
They have to be the sponsor for preview pods this year.
I floated that out there.
You have to
floated that out there.
We literally have a giant Factor segment.
I have floated that out there to the sales team. And I hope Factor comes through. And I hope that we also
love
come
you,
through
Factor. So please join us for Giant Factor.
Factor has changed my life. And it really has.
A lot of times these meal plan meals aren't, they're healthy,
but they're bad.
Yeah.
They're really bad.
And it's like, you don't even want to look at them.
No.
It's like, no, this looks like a fresh cooked meal. And it tastes like really good. And they do some stuff with like, it's good. Like,
I put it on a plate.
I was very surprised.
I put it on like a fancy plate, like a dinner plate. And then it's like, my brain doesn't even associate that this is like coming from the microwave.
Yeah. It's fresh, never frozen stuff too.
And I've had a really long day. I'm actually really freaking pissed that I can't go home and just heat up a meal in the microwave that I'm going to enjoy, that I actually have to take intentional time to cook my meal because I'm waiting for my new order of Factor to get to my place. Head to factormeals.com/Giants50 and use code Giants50 to get 50% off. That's code Giants50 at factormeals.com/Giants50 to get 50% off. That's a really good deal. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
Dude, if we can get them for Giant Factors on preview pods, I mean, we've made it. We've made it if we are getting a word association sponsor.
How about we talk about Tre Hawkins?
I mean, he had a great one-on-one rep versus Bryce Ford-Wheaton, which is I think Bryce Ford-Wheaton has been summed up really good in day one and day two. Day one makes this sick, not contested catch, but sick, goes up, leaps, catches the ball behind him. Great catch in red zone drills. Awesome. And then day two, he's running some of the ugliest routes we've ever seen and gets an interception on one-on-ones, which one-on-ones are built for wide receivers. And that's kind of like, we're having fun with Bryce Ford-Wheaton. He's on the third string, but that's kind of like, this is who Bryce Ford-Wheaton is.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome for Tre Hawkins, who 6'2", like 6th-round pick out of Old Dominion. Guy's a freaking athlete. Like, don't know what he's going to be, but I know that guy's at least got ability to be something.
Yeah.
Where a lot of 6th-round picks, you look at him like, that guy
second team.
That guy doesn't have the ability to be a solid backup.
Yeah, he's been with the second team, at least day two. That's where he was. So for a 6th-round pick, maybe you wouldn't expect him to be running with the twos, but he is, and I kind of think rightfully so, deservedly so. And the plays in which he stood out, it's matched why we liked him from Old Dominion. His physicality, he's not afraid to get in your face. And I hope to continue to see more of that. I want to see some vertical stuff. I want to see, I think he has the speed, certainly put up the 40, but I want to see if he can kind of keep up with guys, hey, this is NFL speed. It's not Old Dominion speed. Can he keep up with the guys going down the field and, not get too handsy and not get too physical?
Right.
Daniel Jones.
I mean, he just looks good. Like, he looks confident there. And I think Darren Waller is a big part of that. We were talking today, we had assumed Darren Waller will get some. I think we talked about this in the Yard interview, but assuming like Waller gets some rest days.
Yeah.
All right, we
Load
could
management
see you
days.
be good with Waller. Let's see how you are without Waller. Let's run this offense without Waller and see how it looks.
Because the Giants may inevitably be without Darren Waller at some point this year.
The only other news point is Raheem Nunez-Roches.
I want to talk about one more thing with DJ. We mentioned this on the live stream about possibly different arm angles and arm slots. So I saw that a little bit in the clip that you posted on Twitter. Who was that touchdown to?
Isaiah Hodgins versus Deontay Banks.
Deontay Banks. We'll get there. I guess we got to talk about Hyatt too. We have time. So, but Daniel Jones possibly practicing some new arm slots, and maybe that was part of like his offseason training. I think even in some of the workout clips that circulated this offseason, he was trying to do some stuff. So we'll see if he can integrate that into a game. We'll see if he can even integrate that when, hey, we got the pads on and it's 11v11, and at least there's a simulated pass rush coming at you. But I'm not even talking about when he's improvising to his right and rolling to his right and rolling to his left and doing like Mahomes where, he's like an owl and his head is pointing somewhere completely different to where his body's pointing. But I'm even just talking about from the pocket, possibly some different arm slots and arm angles and stuff like that. It seems like he's working on it. He's
working on it. But at the end of the day, Daniel Jones I don't see that ever being a big part of the game.
Right.
And like the one bad play from Daniel Jones in these 2 days was that, like rolling to his left, saw Waller on a crosser, threw it, and he just put it over the hands of Waller for an interception to McKinney.
Mm-hmm. All right, where were you going to go to next?
I was just going to, if we want to talk Hyatt, let's do it after the interview.
Hyatt after the interview?
Yeah. Raheem Nunez-Roches hasn't been out there. He's in concussion protocol for he was in a car accident. So we can let's tease something for after the interview with Art. So here's Tony Award winner Arch Stapleton in the van. All right, we now welcome onto the program first of our Camp Series interviews into the van, 2022 Kadarius Toney Award. Not sure if you're a good person, but Best Giants reporter presented by Kadarius Toney Award presented by Talking Giants.
That was a rough one.
from North Jersey, USA Today, The Record, Art Stapleton. That's probably the longest intro we've ever done. How you doing,
Oh.
What's up, fellas? Well, for every outlet, right? That's the way it works. Thanks. Appreciate being here. Although having to stare at that trophy with Kadarius's face on it after he blocked me on Twitter or X or whatever it's called, feel a little hurt, a little disappointed.
We made a conscious effort to stop talking about the Tony Award because I think some of our listeners are like, all right, it's just the name makes people cringe now. But I also know it's like Tony acting this way is it's just going to be it. Like, yeah, we don't like Tony anymore, but that's always going to be the name of the award. But welcome on. Very excited to get into some camp stuff.
Absolutely.
Want to talk Saquon, but this is the thing that's on the forefront of my mind after watching 2 days of practice, Art, is Darren Waller is like something we haven't seen. Like it's, like today they were working some blitzes, which last year gave the offense fits. Like not just like the offense didn't look great, like inoperable versus these blitzes. And now they're just like, okay, we're just going to throw the Darren Waller over the middle. And he catches everything, and he's always open. What do you envision for him this season with the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, I think you nailed it. There was a time where I think the Giants tried to instill the hope that Evan Ingram would be that kind of weapon. But, Evan ran certain routes well, and then he got into the Jason Garrett system, and they didn't run those routes. And, so you're not going to see Waller on many comeback curl routes, 7 yards beyond the line of scrimmage. I think Waller opens everything up. I think Waller's presence is the reason why they have a lot of great ideas for Paris Campbell. I think Paris Campbell will be using a lot of underneath stuff. I think that fits into the Daboll Kafka offense that they've tried to build here. And you're right about Waller. I mean, you come out here in practice and you don't tell anyone who anyone is out on the field, and you notice 12 right away. Yep. I mean, that's the guy that you notice, and you're right. I gotta admit, it's a little weird not seeing Bobby.
I know.
You don't like
weird.
my face?
Well, I don't even see you. We're like driving to Disney World or something.
This is the weird. Yeah, this is the weirdness of the van, and that's what makes it the best. This is like therapy.
But with Waller, really the main thing through the first 2 days of practice is the short area quickness. And you mentioned Evan Ingram, where it's like, the hope for Evan Ingram was to kind of maybe be this, but the short area quickness is an area that I think fans always kind of understood that Evan Ingram never really had that, but just seeing it through the first 2 days, just how quick and fast and Waller can kind of cut in those intermediate routes, I think that is the difference maker, while also having the over-the-top speed, which we haven't even seen yet during camp.
Yeah, that is true. I think that's a great point. The idea that, he's not only making these contested catches, and even from day one, I had Jonathan Casillas. I was standing next to him yesterday when they were down on the goal line. You guys saw the 7-on-7 down there.
And he bobbled.
And Waller bobbled and caught it at the goal line, but he got popped a couple times. And Casillas said to me, they're going to stop running that route in training camp and in preseason. He said, because as a linebacker, I'm sizing up Waller and I'm going to pop him. He goes, he wants to take that pop in October. Great. I don't need him taking that pop in August. Right. And it's 100% true. And Daboll even talked about this morning. With a guy like Waller, especially with what he's gone through the last 2 years with injuries, you need to watch his training this summer. It would not surprise me to see him get a couple vet days. I mean, maybe he comes back, even tomorrow night, maybe they cut him back a little bit, see where the GPS on his body shows, what they show. I think we're going to see that. We did see that some last year. I think we're going to see that more this year. Obviously, with the big concern of injuries, this team still had its share of injuries last year. And with a guy like Waller, the soft tissue stuff is certainly you see, like you guys both said, you see the impact already of what he's going to do and what he's going to do to defenses. You cannot risk something that's preventable. You can't do anything about some of the ACLs that they had last year. I mean, the Colin Johnson freak Achilles, I mean, that was weird. And on grass, by the way. But you got to watch the soft tissue stuff. I don't think they're going to push Waller too much this summer, and for good reason.
Yeah, and there's been past Giants acquisitions that you hope come in and change the offense a little bit. Well, now seeing 2 days of Darren Waller, I think comfortable that the only thing that can stop that is just him flat out missing games, right?
Yeah.
Because he is someone who, hey, if you want to attack down the field, he'll be there. The quick game, he's going to be there. The intermediate, he's going to be there. Just it's the only issue with him is getting him where he's not a blocking liability in the run game, I think, and that's obviously not something we're going to see a ton in training camp. But very excited to see Waller once he gets ready for Week 1. He is a player who I love every second of training camp. Has me okay, I just want to get to Week 1 to see that guy in a real game for the Giants.
And because of what this team did with the tight ends last year, and let's be honest, it was Daniel Bellinger and guys who were ultimately signed off the street and kept bringing them in, and they got production out of that, more production than you would ever imagine out of that tight end position last year, considering the resources they pumped into it. I can't wait to see the combo of Waller and Bellinger, and because you saw a couple times today, Bellinger was the guy who got open because Waller ran a different route. So it was almost like Bellinger was running the underneath stuff. And he was very effective last year with really nobody to take any type of coverage away from him. Up until that Jacksonville game when he got hurt, with the poke in the eye, he had become a reliable weapon for Daniel Jones underneath. So the combo of Waller and Bellinger at tight end, I think, is going to be a big part of this offense, especially in big games against teams that won't be able to handle that.
And day one, you saw a lot of red zone stuff with 12 personnel, and you're like, all right, that's red zone stuff. You're going to put the bigger guys on the field. But even day two, where they spread it out a little bit more, they were doing some second, third down stuff towards the middle part of the field where you have more room to work with. Even Bellinger was getting some big gains there, so it was fun to see.
So you want to ask him about Saquon?
Yeah. So I haven't been fully caught up with, hey, I've been enjoying Giants training camp. We're going back and we're live streaming and stuff at the warehouse. So I haven't been fully caught up in the Joe Shane, and Saquon Barkley did just speak today. You just got back from talking with Saquon, and all the reporters did. So give me kind of the rundown on some of the best of stuff that maybe Shane had to say, Saquon had to say, and then also I'm going to ask a second parter right now too. Saquon says respect has been the key word, buzzword throughout this entire process, right? So he feels like he's respected by the Giants, but at the same time, he also feels like the contract offer that was kind of offered to him, he felt kind of disrespected by that, but he still feels respected by the Giants. Where are you on this? What's Saquon's kind of overall feeling on this?
I sit on the idea, and look, Saquon's going to say what he's going to say at the podium. He said all the right things. We all know Saquon. That's what he's going to say. It's important to him. I think if you get him off to the side and get him a little emotional, he'd probably tell you a little bit more. Look, the disrespect was there. When you're close to people and you want to believe that they're your family and they care about you the best they do, you expect that when you ask them for something and they're going to say, okay, no problem. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part of the business is that, as a father, if my daughter asks me for anything,
yes,
she's going to expect, well, that's my daddy. He loves me, and he's going to give me anything. And then when daddy says no, you get a tantrum in the corner, and then you realize the next morning, well, daddy still loves me. I think that's kind of how I see it. I know it's very simplistic with this relationship. Look, I go back before talking Giants. There was the O.C. Umenyiora and Jerry Reese stuff. And I remember
that got really toxic.
O.C. Umenyiora basically called Jerry Reese a liar in legal documents around the lockout when that stuff was going on. He held out. O.C. would be on the bike all the time. He's a legend and a Ring of Honor honoree in this franchise. At O.C.'s retirement press conference, he called out Jerry Reese and laughed, and they said the two of them had gone to the diner over here on Route 3, the TikTok, I think it was at the time, and said they worked it out, and that the media were the fools. Come on. Everything was real. Everything was emotional at the time, but over time, they worked it out. And I think ultimately, Saquon said something today in the press conference that I thought he was going to go one way, and he kind of let it drop off. I want to watch the video again to see what he had said. He said, I looked Joe in the eye, I looked Dave's in the eye, and then it was one of those, I'm here. I'm here, I get it. So is Saquon hanging out in Joe Shane's office? Is Joe Shane going up to Saquon's locker after the first game? I don't know. I don't know if he did it last year, to be honest. So I think that's kind of where we're at. I think Saquon wants to be with this team. I thought the Giants leaned on that. And that was the biggest thing for me is that I think they knew Saquon Barkley so well that I believe that they knew the gamble wasn't even a gamble on their part, that ultimately Saquon Barkley was going to be here.
Yeah, he didn't even miss report day.
No.
Right. When I saw that deal on Tuesday morning, I think most of our heads went there must have some clause that they can't franchise tag him again with it being that. And it's just – I think first of all, Saquon Barkley truly does care about being here and being part of the team, and it would have ate him alive. But also, Saquon's also very smart and understands his self-image, and that even as undeserved as it would be, fans were going to turn on him. That's just the way it goes, and it was already starting a little bit, and I don't think he was ready for 6 weeks of that.
Bobby, that's exactly what he said in the press conference, to be honest. You nailed it, and that's another part that was interesting today, is that he said, and somebody obviously got through to him and said, look, okay, you sit out. Say you sit out the entire season, and the Giants lose, and they don't make the playoffs, and at the end of this season, who's coming to give Saquon Barkley $15 million, $14 million? Yep. The Giants certainly aren't. And now you've angered an entire fan base that now looks at you as the reason why we lost is because you sat out. He said, and that can do something to you. And someone brought up the word legacy, and Saquon he didn't use that word, but I'll use that word. Yep. He knows what his legacy is.
He's talked about it.
His legacy is, and he talked about breaking the spirit. Like he said, there are people in the league, Kim Jones, and I'll give her credit, mentioned that she had talked to Michael Strahan, and Michael Strahan said the one thing about Saquon is that he just hopes through all this it doesn't break his spirit.
Yeah.
And Saquon said, my spirit won't be broken. No one's going to break my spirit. But I think people got through to him in that way and saying, you are Saquon Barkley. You are who you are. Don't let this entire thing change who you are. And that's probably as much football as it is a person and who he wants to present to the public. And I think that's kind of the situation that they're dealing with.
Yeah, so obviously you have, like my brain goes to, okay, well, Joe Shane, hey, like, good job, man. You don't want to pay running back 4 or 5 years and maybe do exactly what Dave Gettleman would have done, right? So there's praise for Joe Shane to be had there. But, Bobby, you've talked about this, how Saquon has mentioned over and over again that he wants to be a Giant for life.
Yep.
And there are certain actions that it feels like, from an outsider's perspective, it feels like the actions that the Giants have taken, or lack thereof, does not match that same sentiment that Saquon Barkley has. It's like, I want to be a Giant for life, I want to be here for life, I want to be here for life, and the Giants' actions have kind of been the opposite. So it's interesting how you say about kind of like breaking his spirit and kind of taking a lot of wind at him there. So what's your kind of reaction to that? What was maybe his reaction?
I think Joe Shane's, and I've written about this several times. I've written columns on Joe, and I wrote another one today that, Joe Shane as a negotiator used every tool in the toolbox that he had to his advantage.
Yep.
Everything that he could possibly use, he used it. He didn't freelance. He didn't say, oh, well, let me call John Mara and ask for a couple extra $1 million in order to be able to get Saquon in here. He didn't go outside of the box. I mean, he, in his first offseason with true negotiating power with cornerstones for the franchise that he's trying to build, he basically did everything he said he was going to do on day one. He gave everybody a clean slate. He looked at guys. None of these guys were drafted by Joe Shane.
Yep.
$371 million that got out are all Dave Gettleman draft picks.
Yep.
So what does that mean for Joe Shane? It means that he is who he says he is, that he will give you the opportunity to earn another contract. Look what he did with Darius Slayton.
I was going to say, like, everyone points to Daniel Jones, but I think Darius Slayton is the biggest example of that because they were actively trying to get rid of him, and he was not part of the active roster. The 40. He was part of the 6 inactives to start the season last year.
Right. I mean, so that's where I take it from Shane, is that I think he knew he had to set a tone on how he was going to negotiate with his players, no matter how well-liked, no matter how popular they were. And I think it was hard for him at times. He's admitted that. I think off camera, away from the podium, he may even say even more so that, it was hard. It's hard to sit there and look at guys who you're counting on. And Saquon was asked this, Justin, and it's kind of part of your point. When you see guys on your team, I mean, look, it was awkward yesterday. They couldn't bring Saquon out to talk, even if they had plans to have him come talk. You've got Andrew Thomas announces, they announced the Andrew Thomas. No one's looking at that going, Andrew Thomas doesn't deserve that contract. Of course he deserves that contract. He probably would have been in his right to wait till next year, like Bobby and I were talking before the show. May get more. Right. Yep. Why wait why settle on $67 million guaranteed when you could probably get 75 or 80 by the end of the season? And Saquon was asked this today, when you've got guys in your locker room, Joe Shane showed he's willing to pay, but he's just not willing to pay you.
Right.
Well, how do you feel? And Saquon said, I'm never going to shortchange my guys, my friends, my teammates, and I'm all about my brothers getting paid. He said, we all recognize now that this isn't necessarily about me. It's about the position.
Yep.
And I think that's another reason why he's here, is that I wonder if that Zoom call last Saturday night brought some clarity to Saquon, that the idea of this isn't the Giants looking to screw Saquon. Maybe a little bit.
It's a league-wide problem.
It's a league-wide issue.
And like you said, Joe Shane has taken everything that has been granted to him by the league rules to his advantage. It's not like Joe Shane is doing this specifically to Saquon Barkley out of spite.
Right, and the argument that I've seen some fans make is the idea of, oh, come on, what's a couple $1 million? Why didn't you just give it to Saquon, get the deal done? And I think Joe Shane is looking at the long game. I think he's looking at two ways. One, if Saquon comes out and gets hurt this year and the Giants had overpaid for him to come back, he's going to get slaughtered. Shane will get slaughtered as a negotiator, and every player will think that they're going to walk into their office like they've thought about the Giants for years. They always thought that when push came to shove, John Mara / Steve Tisch would make a phone call and the GM would up a couple $100 million or whatever it was, 100,000 I said, but a couple million, and the deal would get done. And I think there were still people who thought that was going to happen with Saquon, and it didn't. And I think that just gives Shane the bargaining power to do his job as a general manager. And if you're going to get upset with him, then he's got to accept that as the general manager, and it's not all buddy-buddy, and Dable's got to deal with the locker room stuff, but that's kind of where Shane has to deal with it, and I think he did a great job this offseason.
What camp position battle are you most locked into?
I'd probably say corner, the DBs in general, but slot corner is fascinating because of the issues with the contract with Darnay Holmes, knowing that he got the paid for performance upgrade, so he's right around $2 million in cap space. It's kind of a similar situation that Darius Slayton was in last year. The idea, the only difference is that the Giants needed cap space last year, so that's another reason why Slayton was on the bubble. But Slayton also, to his credit, has admitted that he did not perform well in the summer last year, and he put himself on the bubble as much as his contract did. I think that slot corner is a very important position on this team. I think you have Cordell Flott, you have Darnay Holmes. I think Nick McLeod may end up factoring in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of, to me, that's the most important spot on this defense and maybe on this team. I mean, I know everybody's going to say wide receiver right away. We all go to wide receiver, but I think that's kind of the spot. And I think Darian Beavers wins that second inside linebacker job if he's healthy, but I don't know how much base they're going to play. I mean, I really don't, and that's why Beavers, I think, will win that job because he can play in sub packages, and it's not a slap at Micah McFadden, but I just think Beavers is kind of more of a wink player. You could see him line up in some packages, blitzing on the edge, that kind of thing. So, but I would say corner, because if Tay Banks wins that job opposite Adoree at corner, which I believe he will, then they have a lot of things they could mix and match with the safeties and the slot corner.
Yeah, funny that you mentioned Nick McLeod. Nick McLeod, day one at safety, day two kind of went back to corner, which was cool to see. So,
yeah, and day one, Darnay struggled quite a bit. But he looked better with the second team today. Obviously, that's against second. But Flott, I focused in on Flott because I'm as interested in that as you are. And he was really disrupting a lot of the receivers, including like the interception that Jones had on 7-on-7s. That started with Flott disrupting Isaiah Hodgins and screwing up that first progression. And, that wasn't a bad read by DJ, just a bad throw. But it started with Flott, jamming up Isaiah Hodgins. And he had some other good reps. So I'm excited to see if we always have these expectations for like third-round picks to make this big year two jump. So Flott, I think, is someone who can either be loved by week 5 or hated. So, but I thought he looked good today.
We all remember the Xavier McKinney play at the end of the Vikings win in the playoffs. But, Flott hopping off the bench and making that play on the crosser, I think that was on the third down before the fourth down. Flott hadn't played basically the entire game.
We just saw the other day because we were looking up numbers. It was one of 3 snaps he had in the entire game.
I mean, so I think, and he was very young. He's still one of the youngest players in the entire NFL.
And he weren't on his weight.
He looks a little bigger, but you know what? I should have had the roster what they list him at compared to last year.
I feel like you got to ask him.
And then subtract 5 pounds.
And then subtract 5 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll have to. We'll have to get him over the next couple of days. I'm sure he'll be requested. I'll request him when we get a chance on Sunday to get him in the media room. We'll try to.
How much weight he added on and stuff like that. It was a big concern coming out.
The weight questions are always great for other guys. You know, when you say to somebody, "Hey, you look like you added some weight," and guys are like, "No, not really, not really." Oh well.
Can I ask about Beasley?
Yeah, go for it.
You were a cool story about Cole Beasley.
Thanks.
And that's you're welcome. And that's a signing that I feel like a lot of fans are like, Cole Beasley, whatever, 34 years old, but he's come out here the first 2 days and he's splitting reps with Paris Campbell in the slot. And also, I think him and Paris Campbell are two different players. I have this little theory that performance-wise, that I think Cole Beasley can kind of fill that Richie James role last year, kind of methodically move the chains, be a security blanket for Daniel Jones. But tell us about that conversation you have with Cole Beasley and what you expect his role to be this year.
I was shocked, honestly, because I try not to go in with preconceived notions of who guys are, but we know Cole Beasley, going back to 2020, has been battling on social media with people.
Pretty brash, right?
Yeah, very open about his feelings on the COVID situation and vaccinations and we all know, not to relive that, but the rules and why NFL players should get vaccinated, all that stuff. And I didn't want to make that a topic when I talked to him because I wanted to know him as a football player. I wanted to know, coming off of last year, where he was mentally, physically, and everything else. Like you said, 34 years old, and he retired twice last year. I think maybe he was struggling a little bit from talking to him, personal-wise, family-wise. The family couldn't decide, did they want to totally move. It's really the first time that he was in a situation where once he didn't get signed for training camp, they were kind of in limbo. Like they were stuck in where they were located. And that's the one thing I didn't ask them, where they were. But then it was, okay, I'm signing with the Tampa practice squad. Do I want to relocate my family? If I relocate my family, then I'm gone in 2 weeks. How am I doing this? Now I'm on the practice squad. I'm not returning punts. I'm playing gunner. I'm doing this stuff on the practice squad. Is that really for me? So I was pleasantly surprised because I want to like the players that I'm covering, and he struck me as humble. He told me that he thought essentially he made a mistake last year because the Giants wanted to bring him in and bring him with Dable after having 82 catches with Dable the year before, and he basically wanted to squeeze money out of the Giants, and the Giants, Joe Shane basically said, I don't have the money. I had heard $4 million. I didn't ask Cole about it yesterday, but I had heard that's what his asking price was, and the Giants wanted to bring him in on the practice squad, let him get his feet wet, let him get ready up to speed and be here. So I was impressed with what I heard. I think he's going to come here and battle it out, and I don't know if you guys feel the same way. I don't think we see Wan'Dale until October. I think he stays on PUP. I think Shep comes off at some point, probably relatively soon, maybe next week. And I think it's going to be a battle for reps and see if those guys, who stays healthy, who can be in there. But they didn't bring Cole Beasley here to sell tickets. Let's put it that way. I mean, I think if he's on this team, they're going to find a role for him, especially with his connection with Dable. I mean, he knows this offense. So, he's the guy that I think would dominate in the slot. I think Paris and Shep could move outside, and you can move them all around. You bring them in motion, Paris into the backfield, all those kind of things. I think it kind of creates a nice scenario. But, I was pleasantly surprised at the way Cole just attacked. He was very focused, talking about football, talking about the mistakes he made, regrets not signing with the Giants last year, which I did not anticipate. I didn't even ask that, and he said, what I put in the thing. Like, I think I
he would have led the team in catches last year if he was here.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think he looks at what happened last year. He's I don't want to say close off the field, but obviously he has a relationship with Isaiah Hodgins in Buffalo, and Isaiah Hodgins was fighting to get reps and get on the game day roster, and Cole Beasley had 82 catches 2 years ago. He sees what Isaiah Hodgins did, come here with Dable midseason, and then all of a sudden become what he became. And I think he's still a good part of this offense. So, I think Beasley is somebody I would not – like I said, there are two guys that I think people are very quick to say, they won't be on this team. It's it's Cole Beasley and Sterling Shepard. I don't know why people still think that Sterling Shepard. Now you can be saying that I don't think he's going to make it. He always gets injured. I don't think he's going to be that. That's fine. If he gets hurt, he's not on the team. But if Sterling Shepard is healthy, you tell me what receiver out here, and you want to bring Waller into it. Say Waller's number one. After that, Sterling Shepard could make as big of an impact on this offense as any other wide receiver that are here. So I think, like I said, I think it's going to be a fun battle to watch, but I think Beasley is probably more of a factor here than maybe I would have even thought last week when he signed.
Yeah. Now, the big question that everyone's been waiting for. What is your record prediction for the 2023 New York Giants?
Oh, I got blasted last year.
Everyone got blasted last year.
I think I picked 6 wins last year.
But that was the most common pick, and
yeah,
that might have been like on the high side coming out of camp, and then it was really fun to tell everyone every week, like, you lost.
that was
Especially Smeal,
because
Smeal took the political, I don't care, I just want to see what they do well. And I was like, you know what? We made the playoffs. You should have cared.
Oh, yeah, I was reminded, well, you picked them for 6 wins, so you can't talk about how good they are as a playoff team now. Like, okay, all right, fine. You know what? I think I'll put this prediction out there. I think, obviously, injuries can change things. I think they beat Dallas on that opening Sunday night.
Whoa!
Number one. I think they were a lot close last year, a lot closer than people remember in that
both
Monday
games.
night game. Right, but the Thanksgiving was a little weird. They kind of kept it close late.
Dory Jackson not being there. Anyway, I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, but Saquon makes that touchdown run into the third quarter. Giants are winning that game.
Yeah.
I mean, they let that one get away.
Graham Gano missed a field goal. That game-winning drive at the end would have instead of a game-tying drive, would have been a game-winning drive. Anyway.
Right. And, of course, Dak wasn't playing for the Cowboys.
Right.
But anyway, I think there are situations where I think they can come out of those first 3 games 2-1. I think that's possible. I think they have some games that are going to be difficult. But, look, last year at that schedule, if you had told me the back-to-back Green Bay and London and Baltimore here at home with no bye, because, remember, they declined the bye. They came back to play Baltimore, and, they were going to get shredded, by Rodgers and Lamar. And they won both of those games. So for prediction, I'll say they're tied with the Cowboys in the division, split the series, behind the Eagles. Again, the NFC East will get 3 playoff teams, and I'll say the Giants have 10 wins.
10-7. Yep. No tie prediction this year.
No tie.
There
shouldn't have been a tie last year either. I mean, come on, John Feliciano, what are you doing?
Yeah, that was frustrating because I'm undefeated in Giants games I've attended, and Danny King was on like a 5-game losing streak of games he had attended, and we both went to that game and they tied, and it kind of like didn't end either one of our streaks.
An unstoppable force met an immovable object.
Yeah. So, Art, where can I know you got the podcast going? What do you got coming up down the pike on that?
Yeah, I got the podcast. Haven't booked our first guest yet. Maybe we'll have to get you guys on it at some point.
We got a van.
We have a van.
I was going to say,
a camera, and we have microphones.
I don't think you can fit in my Jeep Grand Cherokee, but we'll try. We can tailgate. So we'll do some stuff this summer. Hopefully, maybe kicking around the idea of doing like a fan forum with the podcast, taking on the road a little bit. But you can find all my stuff on NorthJersey.com. We're actually starting a weekly newsletter, which I think is really a cool thing for people who just want. I don't want to pay attention the entire week. I just want everything delivered to me once, and then I could pick and choose what I want to read. So that's going to be delivered every Friday morning. It'll have all my links for the week and then the link to the podcast and stuff. So check out my Twitter / Instagram or whatever. I'm Art at Art_Stapleton.
One more thing. You did win the Tony Award last year. Are you going to put an endorsement behind anybody?
Who did I you know what? I tweeted this a couple weeks ago that I joked and I said I was going to endorse them, and now I can't remember.
El Jefe.
It was El Jefe. I don't know if El Jefe qualifies.
Technically not. I have thought about just turning Danny King into a beat reporter.
Yeah, Danny King.
Just picking him.
I think there will be people battling for it a little bit. I would imagine at some point I will throw my considerable weight behind someone. But right now I'm going to lay low and see what develops over the course of the season.
Did you DM me when I tried to break the news? I didn't try. I did it. I broke the news that the Giants were playing the Panthers.
Yes, I
preseason
did.
game. Did you DM me and be like, I don't know if this is right?
No, I didn't.
Somebody DM me, and I'm going
it
to
wasn't
find
me.
them and call them out. I just remembered that.
No, it wasn't me. I said I didn't know it was right, but good for you for nailing that preseason game. That was
No,
awesome.
you didn't. No, somebody DM'd me and doubted me.
No,
And I'm going to find out who, and that's
Maybe
why
it's
you're
Jordan.
a Tony Award winner.
I think I didn't doubt you. I think it was one of those things where, like, one of those press conferences when Saquon Barkley talked about, going and peeing in a corner in the field in Chicago, and
I remember that.
we debated whether or not that was actually real.
I remember that.
I think you can never tell with you guys talking Giants whether or not you're legit, which you are.
Anytime we've ever said per sources, though, it's real. Anytime we've ever done that, we haven't messed anything up yet.
But you love busting us too for whenever that's part of the joke. That's part of the Tony Award, that you guys started the award to kind of make fun of the beat, right? I mean,
Well,
that's
it was just
really what it was.
Well, it was just because you guys had the good guy award. We
Right.
had the not sure if you're a good guy award.
right.
But now it's just a real award. Like it's
a real award.
It was a joke for 10
I
minutes.
have it.
and
I
then became a
have
real
the
have won it.
T-shirt in my drawer. I wore it when I came on with you guys the last time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's real. Like
Trophy
that's
and
never gonna
Duncan
stop.
card? Did you use the Duncan
I
card?
got the Duncan card, and I think I did use it almost immediately. So,
Perfect.
Very nice. All right, Art Stapleton, we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, fellas.
All right, thank you to Art Stapleton. That's Tony Award winner Art Stapleton for joining us in the van. And I honestly hope that Art Stapleton will join me. I actually invited him to where I will be on Saturday night, watching the Spence and Terrence Crawford fight. Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford fight. That's right. What were you about to say?
I was just gonna say I'm looking forward to watching the video tomorrow.
Yeah.
To see how much more red we look in this dark studio.
Yeah.
Which the lighting, it really sucks, versus in the van. Because the van, I mean, the studio makes us look like beet red.
Wow. You know who's beat red in Las Vegas right now? Dan Canobio and Chris Algieri, because they are there. PPV sent them there, and there's going to be a chat. If you go to ppv.com, it's the only streaming platform where boxing fans can participate in a live interactive fan chat hosting by boxing experts, and that's our very own Dan Canobio and Chris Algieri, and legendary boxing writer Lance Pugmire. I don't know why I had such a hard time with that word a couple days ago, but that was, like, it's Pugmire. Like, that's how you say it, Justin. PPV.com is the most convenient, most reliable, most engaging way to stream pay-per-view events, and there are no subscriptions required ever. You can download the ppv.com app to all of your favorite devices that you can watch on your computer, phone, and, of course, on your big screen TV. You think Art's going to come to hang out with me Saturday night to watch the fight?
Yeah.
Sure. Our order Spence Crawford on ppv.com right now. Believe me, it is the very best way to watch this fight, and you do not want to miss out. Bobby Skinner, you'll be glad you did.
Be glad you did. What do you want to say? Thank you, Art, for coming on.
Thank you, Art.
What do you got on Hyatt?
Yeah, so Hyatt's had an interesting first 2 days. A little bit more low moments than high moments, but hey, I mean, this is a guy who we knew is third-round pick, and we knew that he was going to be a little bit of a project just because of from the offense that he came from at Tennessee. The Cowboys wide receiver coach saying, can you run routes? And a lot of Giants fans have rallied behind Jalin Hyatt saying, I can run routes. It's like, yeah, I love that confidence in you, man, but we got to improve the route running, and that needs to be part of his game. I've seen a good amount of slips and some difficulty maybe catching the ball. Jalin Hyatt today started to look a little frustrated. He's been running with the third team, which it's not a huge indictment on Jalin Hyatt. There's a lot of guys in front of him that have been around the run of the league, that have been around with the Giants, number one. They've been around in Brian Dable's system, like Cole Beasley has been around. There's just a lot of guys in front of him on the depth chart right now, and he is a rookie, and he needs to grow. And he has gotten some first team reps. Like the second day, he did get some first team reps.
They threw him in there for a few.
So he did look a little frustrated some point during the second practice. And there was a couple points where Brian Dable, ran across the field, wrapped his arm around him to talk to him, and just kind of, it seemed like he was frustrated. And I don't necessarily know what the exchange was. Wan'Dale Robinson winds up coming up to him and kind of slapping his chest too, saying, hey.
It was after he was wide open down the field.
Yeah.
He burnt whatever Zion Gilbert or whatever.
And Tommy DeVito is throwing the ball to him on that third string and that third team. So, a theory can be, this is probably the first time, maybe ever, that Jalin Hyatt has been on a third string third string on like a depth chart, and maybe that's part of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. But that was I went on with the Big Blue Banter guys a couple days ago, and that was like the one thing I just asked him. I was like, what is the expectations for Hyatt? Because they're all over the place. Because he was projected to be a first rounder by a lot of people. Mm-hmm. We know the Giants were very willing to take him in the second round.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's just a very crowded wide receiver room, and he's got stuff to like the stuff that he needed to work on showed up the most in red. It shows up the most in red zone, where there's timing,
everything's got to be so perfect.
Every step matters, and that showed up. But then you also saw the speed. Like the reason he's mad is because when he burnt dudes, and it was open, and it like had a couple steps on him, but just the ball didn't come his way. So it'll be interesting to see where they find a role for him, at least early on. Like obviously injuries and stuff take care of itself, but it'll be interesting to see what his role is. The first quarter of the season.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to watch him in preseason. I mean, rookie wide receivers are like one of the most fun positions to watch in preseason.
Yeah, maybe Tyrod Taylor be throwing him the ball, and that would I think that's kind of fun.
That's what we need to do. Taylor, we were joking. Like last year, they just did not blitz Tyrod Taylor in the second team at all, and they're doing that to the second team now. And it's like, yeah, this is a lot harder on the second team than it was last year. All right, anything else, Justin?
No.
All right, we will be back on Tuesday. We'll be back Monday with player profiles and projections.
Right, and also, I'm serious. Check out these live streams because the podcast
tonight after the practice will be live.
Yes, we try and be a little bit more organized for the pod and not talk about everything. But the live stream is basically, hey, we have 35 minutes to just go through our notes and go through our brains and just spit out anything that we saw, anything that we observed. So if you want more of like what happened on a day-to-day basis, check out the live streams. They're all in a playlist on YouTube, and they're all easily digestible by being like 30 to 37 minutes.
Yeah, try and keep them 30 minutes. I mean, they're literally just like training camp article reports.
Yeah.
And
except you don't have to read.
Yeah, which is like
suckers.
Key for me. Reading is for nerds. All right, we'll see you then. And enjoy your weekend. We'll see you when we see you. Until then, let's go Big Blue.